Hi guys, we have had another set of earnings from Adidas for the latest quarter, and investors really did like what they heard. Before I go into that detail, please do make sure you are fully subscribed and following to Andy Wilson, that's me, the Sneakonomist. Also, Full Frame Kicks on Instagram, where you will find a boatload of sneaker related content. And also on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications on for the Full Frame Kicks YouTube channel so that you get all the latest news and content as it drops. So let's talk about these Adidas earnings. So they gave us their latest detail of the Q1 trading period. That runs up to the end of March. So for that period, they told us that revenues reached a massive 5.27 billion euros, and that's up 27%. In fact, if we look at it compared to 2 years ago for the same period, so pre-COVID, it was up 2% from there. So they're really doing very well. Gross margins came in up just over 2 percentage points, and that's in line with what people were expecting. From a geographical perspective, you've heard me talk about China, Greater China being the key driver for the region-wise for these manufacturers and these wholesalers, and it didn't disappoint again this time. Greater China sales rose 156%. You've got to bear in mind we are comparing it to the first quarter of last year, and that was when China were really in the epicenter of being closed down due to COVID. North America and EMEA, they rose 8% each. So where were they seeing the sales increases? What channels? It was mainly DTC that saw a nice jump. That's that direct to consumer part that we've talked a lot about previously. That rose 31% to equate to 34% of overall sales now, and that was driven by a 43% increase in e-commerce, so online sales, as still in the period, particularly in Europe, a lot of stores remained shut. They've signed up over 30 million members, new members in Q1 on their online app. Not only have they rolled it out in Latin America, but with the new confirmed app being switched on, we've no doubt seen fresh new members coming on to be on the platform, to be able to take advantage of latest drops, etc. So which categories have done well? They highlighted two specifically. Firstly, in running, we know that running has been a sort of a staple area of people going to for exercise during lockdown, etc. But they unveiled their Ultra Boost 21, so that really did push sales nicely there. The other one, again, to do with lockdown and exercises, outdoor. We've seen various manufacturers and wholesalers benefiting from the large increase of people going out walking, going out to country parks, etc. So we saw outdoor increased about 60%, and that includes trail running, sort of their Terex shoes, etc. there. Another area that I've talked a lot about in the last sort of 6 months, and it's a real key area, is on inventories. Now, inventories is the amount of stock that you have to sell. If you've got too much of it, you have to end up cutting your prices, and that hits your gross margins. If you have too little stock, then you can't sell what people want to buy. Now, we've seen issues with regards to bottlenecks at ports, etc., and a sheer demand for freight container ships, etc. There's just not been the capacity to be able to process this stuff. And then we had the Suez Canal debacle, where we had a large amount of products were just stuck on boats for days on end. So they talked about their inventories being down 9%. They described that as at healthy levels. They repurposed some of their evergreen products. Now, if you've seen some of my previous Adidas reviews, you would have heard me talk on inventories and evergreen products. These are products that if they don't sell them in a certain season, they can put them away and then bring them out for that same season the following year. So it's stuff that it's not colorways and hype stuff that's going to go out of fashion. It's staple stuff, basic colors, but are season dependent. So they can bring that back out. The other stuff is that Reebok, we know they're trying to sell that division at the moment, which I'll come to in a moment, but some of the inventories are coming out of the channel there, so that would have brought inventory numbers down as well. They did talk about the adverse impact though being prolonged EU lockdown and some of the delays to the vaccination rollout, which has caused some delays to some stuff reopening. On Reebok itself, that division they're looking to sell. The sale process itself is well on track. They're talking about good, strong interest shown there. They were asked about an article that was released recently in the press that said that China interest may have disappeared, if you like, because of the anti-Xinjiang region use of manufacturing to do with human rights over the Uyghurs. They denied that that negative sentiment had meant that there was a lack of interest. They wouldn't go into any detail, but denied that that was cooling some interest. Remember, in the past I've talked about possibly interest coming from China because Reebok is established in the United States. If a Chinese brand would want to be able to piggyback that and be able to get some more exposure to the US, they could do that. And also they could be pushing the Reebok brand in Asia Pacific and Greater China. So we're still waiting to hear on the details on the Reebok sale. On their outlook, they said that their full year sales guidance has gone from mid to high % increase now to high teens increases. So they're increasing their estimates on sales there. They are highlighting a number of things that are coming in the pipeline now. Things are starting to reopen. So we've got the Euros, the football, the soccer European Championships coming up, where they have 8 of the 12 countries involved there have got Adidas made or manufactured shirts. You've got the Copa America, where 2 of the hosts wear Adidas shirts. Tokyo Olympics, they were talking about Stan Smith and their Milo product, which is a sort of a mushroom derived leather alternative for this sort of sustainability. The Ultra Boost made to be remade, this sort of Hypecraft Loop shoe that's going to be 100% recyclable. Continuing with hype drops, and also they mentioned forums and Jerry Lorenzo, who's going to be pushing the basketball side of things. Obviously the forums in the last 6 months have had a real huge resurgence. From a weakness and the weaknesses, they're talking about this prolonged lockdown still being a bit of an issue. Retail traffic is still below the norm, but what they did note is that it's being largely compensated not only by those e-commerce sales that are picking up, but also the conversion rates of when people are going into stores. There's less people going in stores to browse, they're going in to actually purchase a product. So the conversion rate of people walking through the door to sale has increased. The China boycott, I mentioned it just briefly a couple of minutes ago, but there was a piece of research came out this week that highlighted in April Tmall in Greater China, their platform there, they were saying that both Nike and Adidas, as well as Uniqlo, I think it was, that have seen quite significant sharp drop off in sales on that platform as people from Greater China boycott these Western labels over their criticisms to do with Xinjiang manufacturing and the human rights abuses of the Uyghurs. They were trying to distance themselves from that. A lot of the Q&A afterwards was centering around China. They've basically said that in their outlook, they have taken into consideration a number of potential outcomes for the region, and they've factored that into their existing outlook. They did talk a bit about global supply, like I say, with the freight costs, capacity constraints within the ports, port congestions, etc., and they're all things that haven't quite normalized yet, and they could point to increased costs as the year progresses, particularly if they want to start using air freight to move stuff because of potential delays. That would increase costs quite significantly. So the shares rose 8%, as I say, or 8.5% actually, they closed up. Investors liked what they saw. Nike also rose on the back of this positive commentary. Those shares were up 3.5%. So all in all, a good day in the office for Adidas investors. Let's see where it goes from here, but all eyes are going to be on China demand in Q2.